Well, turning now to the race for the White House, Vice President Harris will continue her tour of battleground states this week. The campaign officially launches their Fighting for Reproductive Freedom bus tour today in, of all places, Palm Beach, and will make stops across the Northeast, including Portsmouth, New Hampshire, tomorrow, before returning to Pittsburgh on Thursday. That will mark Harris's second appearance in Pittsburgh this week. Yesterday, she was joined by President Biden for a Labor Day rally with union workers, and it was their first official joint campaign appearance since Biden stepped aside and Harris took over the Democratic presidential nominee. Let's bring in CBS News campaign reporter Nidia Cavazos, who is following the Harris campaign for us. So a little bit of a sort of a passing of the torch moment, I guess, something a sort of smaller version of what we saw at the Democratic National Convention. I want to play a little bit of the rally yesterday in Pittsburgh.
I promise you, if you elect Kamala Harris as president, it'll be the best decision you will have ever made. Are you ready to fight? Yeah! Are you ready to win? Yeah! Are you ready to elect Kamala Harris our next president of the United States of America?
So the crowd certainly seemed to be responding well to President Biden. How can we expect President Biden to be used? What can he do to help her in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania?
Well, good morning, Anne-Marie. President Biden here is playing a very, very critical role, especially when it comes to Pennsylvania and other key battleground states. So what President Biden is doing here is he's rallying up his supporters and making sure that they're also supporting and standing behind Vice President Kamala Harris. He made it clear from the beginning, from the moment that he dropped out of the presidential race, that he was endorsing Harris for president. And so now we see him on the campaign trail, making sure that he's communicating to his voters and to his base support that it's okay for them to stand behind Harris.
So I want to talk to you about some new polling that shows Vice President Harris has widened her support among women, leading Trump by 13% among that voting bloc. So I'm curious about the kind of insight that we can glean from this trend. You know, the one thing about Harris is she's choosing not to lean into the fact that she's a woman. She doesn't talk about being sort of a woman candidate and what it would mean for a woman to be in the White House. She pushes that sort of stuff aside, but she seems to be gaining with this group. Why?
You're right about the fact that Harris doesn't necessarily lean into this on the campaign trail. We don't necessarily hear this talk when it comes to gender and the support she has from women. But what we do know is that the campaign is heavily focused on making sure that they're courting the support of women across across party lines, not just from Democratic women and from their base supporters. And an example of this is a bus tour, the Reproductive Freedoms bus tour that the campaign is officially kicking off today in Palm Beach, Florida, that you were mentioning earlier. And this is intended to make 50 stops from now up until Election Day, and making sure that they're courting women and making sure that they're also educating women on what Project 2025 is and what it would mean for women all across America. And this is not just visiting, blue cities or blue areas, but also making sure that they're visiting and that they're courting Republican women's.
All right, Nidia, thank you.